say, I am happy. I love my life. More than I was expecting. When you look at your overall day, are you able to focus on the good things that happened? My name is Dahlia, and for most of my life, I could not have answered yes to any of these questions. My earliest years were wonderful. I was a happy baby. As a matter of fact, until the age of 5, anyone who knew me would say that I was one of the happiest children that they had ever seen. I had loving parents, doting brothers, and an amazing support system of extended family, family friends, and teachers. But as I got older and the reality of the world started to set into my young mind, the carefree child that everyone had once known began to fade. I began to fear many things that no child should ever even think about. This was when my anxiety began to manifest itself, and I felt a profound shift in the way that I viewed myself and the world around me. Anxiety for me stemmed from a deep sense of insecurity. I felt as if the world around me was not safe. My response to that feeling of insecurity was to try to control everything. I became a perfectionist, and if everything did not go perfectly, or if I made any mistakes at all, I felt like I was a failure and that I was not lovable. I was so guarded that I didn't know how to share my feelings with anyone, not even my parents. Because of these fears, I became very introverted, intense, and negative. My parents recognized a shift in my behavior, but they attributed it to the long car rides back and forth from school every day and the pressure of homework and deadlines that intensified with each passing year. It took until 8th grade before I was diagnosed with anxiety. Once diagnosed, my past perceptions became ongoing topics of discussion with my parents. I was finally able to verbalize the differences between how they had viewed my behaviors over all of those years and what had really been going on in my head. My parents always knew I'd be incredibly upset if they were even a few minutes late to pick me up. They thought I was just anxious because I didn't know how long I might have to wait. They were horrified to learn that for all of those years, whenever they were late, I was convinced that they had gotten tired of me and were not going to come and get me at all. I was continually convincing myself that at any point they might abandon me. Of course, nothing could have been farther from the truth, but these were the thoughts that went through my 7-year-old mind. My parents also knew that I would melt down as soon as I was given a project or assignment at school. Every project was hell for my entire family. I would start to get overwhelmed the minute an assignment was given. It didn't matter if I had a week or a month, I would panic as if it were due the next day. I would become so stressed out that I could get nothing done, which would cause me to procrastinate until the night before it was due, at which point I would start the assignment and be up all night crying and freaking out over how I was going to get it done in time. It wasn't surprising that my parents attributed my behaviors to being overly dramatic and intense. They thought that I was worried about not doing everything perfectly, that I was afraid of failing. They weren't wrong, but the emotions went much deeper. When people are under stress, cortisol and adrenaline are released in the body, causing the commonly known fight or flight response. Most people are able to recognize that they are not in an emergency and can calm themselves down. But for people with anxiety, it is not so simple. People with anxiety tend to freeze, and I would become so overwhelmed by the pressure that I'd become completely frozen. And then there were the multitude of examples of my being exceedingly observant. My mom recognized I caught absolutely everything. I noticed the most subtle lifting of her eyebrow, the tiniest frown, or her tone changing ever so slightly. She was right. I was observant. But that, too, had a deeper motivation. I was constantly looking for signs of something being wrong. I didn't just notice that the gas tank was close to empty. I pointed it out because I was terrified that we were going to run out of gas in the middle of the freeway and that we would be stranded there. I would silently carry that fear for the entire car ride. If you have ever read John Green's book, Turtles All the Way Down, you will know the term thought spiral. Until reading this book, I had no way of describing how my brain works, but this term perfectly embodies it. There are times when my mind will not stop, no matter how hard I try. It jumps from one negative thought to another, gaining momentum until I am completely paralyzed. I'll explain in a little more detail. This is where the stress begins and my mind starts to wander a bit. I worry that every whisper I hear is about me, every snicker or giggle is a joke about me that I will never know. This is when I start forgetting to breathe and my heart rate goes up. I will get very cold but still be sweating. I find myself unconsciously holding my breath, and the lack of oxygen to my brain only makes things worse. My heart rate goes up to the point that I can hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. This is the point when I start to cry. It's the point when I don't know what else to do. I'll curl up in a ball, make myself as small as I possibly can, and simply sob until there are no tears left. This is the point when I feel completely alone. It doesn't matter how many people are around me. It feels like nobody cares about me, and that I need to go through everything alone. And this is when it feels as if I am going to die. I can't feel my heart. I can't breathe. My chest, my stomach, and my head all hurt. Every sound is louder. Every light is brighter, and every smell is more intense. This is the point when the world is just too much. You could start with any simple thought. Let's say I start thinking about the building I'm in. This is what my mind says. Wow, this is a really cool building. It's really tall. I wonder how the architects made it so tall. I wonder if they knew about earthquake safety when they were building it. You know, it is really tall. What if there was an earthquake? Would it survive? What if it fell? What if it fell on me? What if it killed me? What if it killed other people too? What if it killed everyone but me? How could I live? What if I tried to save them but failed? What if I knew what to do but froze? What if it's my fault that all those people died? What if they could have lived and I just didn't know what to do? Then everyone would blame me for the deaths of all those people. My parents would stop loving me. My friends would all hate me. I'd be known as the evil person who killed all those people. What would I do then? How would I live? For those of you who didn't quite catch that, this is what my mind does. But after a lot of hard work, I can stop my thought spirals from going splat. This is how they look now. When I'm here, I can realize that I'm just stressed. I can take a few deep breaths and get out pretty easily. When I'm here, I need to talk about how I'm feeling. Letting out my feelings here stops the spiral from going any deeper. When I'm here, I need to skip the stress and think of the worst possible scenario to put things into perspective. When I'm here, I need a hug from my mom or my dad and to hear that everything is going to be okay. By the time I'm here, there's little I can do. I'll sit on the couch with my mom and a pint of Ben & Jerry's, watch a good rom-com. There's no stopping a thought spiral when it gets there, but I can continue to tell myself that everything is going to be all right. But let's take a step back to before I had any of these coping mechanisms. As I progressed from school to school, I was convinced that I was unhappy because of the place I was in and the people I was surrounded by. I would be in one place where my peers were mean, or another where I clashed with my teachers. And as long as everything was not perfect, I did not know how to be happy because I had no idea how to look at the positive. In 6th grade, I auditioned for the musical and didn't get in. I tried out for the basketball team and didn't make it. People who I thought were my friends betrayed my trust. I was bullied. It felt as if things would never get better. But what I didn't grasp at the time was that these challenges were not mine alone. Almost everyone experiences some, if not all, of these things as a part of growing up. It was clear that if I was ever going to be happy, I would need to work on changing the script of that little voice in my head. What really changed my perspective were 2 encounters I had with kids who were much younger than I was. The first encounter happened my freshman year of high school, when I was in a musical at my local community theater. There was a girl there who was always so happy. Being around her made me so happy because she was always so happy. Her positivity was infectious. She spent every moment of that show laughing, smiling, and making everyone around her smile. One day, she was upset about having to go to the doctor. When I asked her why, she told me that she had recently been diagnosed with Crohn's disease and had to go to the hospital very frequently to get IVs. Crohn's disease is a chronic disease in the digestive system that causes pain, weight loss, and malnutrition. Because of her illness, she was very small, which caused her to be bullied at school constantly. Because of how happy she was all the time, I was convinced she had this amazing life. But after getting to know her, I realized just how much she struggles. Over time, we became good friends. She is so wise beyond her years, and what happened with me being a role model for her flipped around. She has become a role model for me. It was after meeting her that my mentality began to change. It happened at a time when I started to own the fact that I had anxiety, and it was something I'd probably have to live with for most of my life. Even though we were so alike, she was always happy, and I was always unhappy. I saw that the clear difference between us was our mentalities. I watched this 12-year-old girl overcome all of her challenges, and I thought, if she can, why can't I? The second encounter happened the following summer, when I had the incredible opportunity of working for a nonprofit organization called My New Red Shoes. We were trained to sort shoes by gender and size, properly size children's feet, and help them find their perfect pair. We would go to a venue, set up a mini shoe store, and kids in need would come and find the shoes that they love. It was a lot of work, but it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. At one of these events, I was helping a family find shoes. There was a girl who was about 5 and her brother who was about 7. When they walked in, the first thing I noticed was the boy's beautiful smile. Looking at him, I couldn't help but smile too. Then, my eyes traveled to his shoes. It was impossible to tell what color they had been under all of the scuffs and dirt. As we walked, his shoes flapped around, making a slapping sound on the tile floor. I could even see his toes through the massive holes at the front of his shoes. My heart felt heavy with sadness for this boy whose family couldn't afford such a fundamental need. I kept asking myself, how could such a lovely young boy be missing something so basic? So I helped the sister find her perfect pair of shoes. We sized her and started walking to the boys' section. And as we were walking, the sole of the boy's shoe actually fell off. I was shocked that he needed shoes so desperately, but I couldn't show it. So I laughed and said, "It's a good thing we're getting you new shoes." This little boy laughed without a care in the world. We found him his perfect pair of shoes, and he walked away laughing with his arm around his little sister. I never saw him again, but I will always remember the smile on his face. This young boy showed me that happiness is all about being grateful for what you have and not allowing yourself to focus on what you are missing. It is so easy to be afraid in this world and only focus on the darkness. There is so much fear everywhere, but every single one of us has the ability to make a positive impact on those around them. Just like this little boy moved me, like this little girl has taught me, I am here trying to inspire you to find the good in every situation. I can tell you that in all of my negative experiences, in all of the bullying, the loss of confidence, and feeling unimportant, I would not change a thing. Because of these experiences, I know how to tell a person's intentions. I now know when I can trust someone. And because of them, I know what a true friend is. I also know that I was always capable of happiness, and that the only problem was that my anxiety clouded the way that I perceived the world. At first, I didn't have the words to ask for help, and as I got older, I somehow thought it was a sign of weakness, but it is the exact opposite. Learning to connect with others and getting tools to work through your challenges only makes you stronger. A few years ago, my being up here talking about all of my personal experiences would be unthinkable. My being here today, in front of so many people, is a testament to my journey. For many years, I thought that the world was against me, that there was no good to be found. I would come home from school every day and say to my mom that this was, and I quote, "the worst day of my entire life." It didn't matter where I was or what was going on, nothing was ever good enough. It was as if I did not know how to be happy. But as I got older, I would keep saying this, and every time, my mom would reply with, "May this be the worst." It took me a long time to understand what she meant by that. But I finally came to understand that if this day was, in fact, the worst day of my life, then I must be truly blessed. Thank you.